Hello and welcome to what will be another video. So today's video is a little bit different to normal. I'm actually doing a full case upgrade to my PC, so I thought why not show that off as I go and kind of review the case. So getting right into that, of course, we are coming from an old Armageddon style case that came with my original pre-built when I very first bought a PC. I'd been using that for probably a solid 5 years, that case, and it was doing its job fairly well, but it was definitely due for an upgrade. It had a very basic layout, a top mounted power supply, very little drive support, and not really any good cable management spots, along with very limited cooling, with only having one intake fan and one outtake fan as the cooling options. So not exactly the craziest things altogether, but I did have a Ryzen 5 1600 in, along with an ASRock AB350 Pro board and a GTX 1063GB, which in this video we are actually upgrading to a GTX 1070 just as a kind of decent gap there, as I did need the more VRAM and I thought the 1070 was a good option for that at a reasonable price. I also have a 16GB RAM kit at 2666 megahertz. Pretty decent overall. Not the highest for Ryzen. You could definitely do with a 3000 kit, but this definitely suits my needs more than enough. So the new case, getting into that, this is the big thing that I wanted to do for it, as I was looking for something with a bottom mounted power supply. That was a really big feature I wanted for the case as one of the main things, and preferably a shroud section so that I can decently cable manage and store drives, along with more than at least 4 drive support. And this case come in clutch for that. So I've got the Armaggeddon Airstream s140, which honestly, really nice case. It was under 100 Australian dollars, which I will put that on screen with a convert for US, and I'll try and leave links to where you could buy this case in the US, but I had a little trouble trying to track it down there, as being Australian, most search results are for that. But overall, it has 4 SSD mounts, which are great. 2 on the back, 1 on top of the drive cage, and 1 on the inside of the case. And it has a 3 hard drive cage, which is great for 3.5mm drives. Really good, honestly. I've got my 4TB, a 1TB, and just a 500GB head laying around in it, and that's more than enough for that, along with, of course, my 120 SSD, which is going to be due for an M.2 upgrade at some point. But it's also got 6 fan mounts for 140mm fans. The one I got actually came with 4 fans total, so 1 fan in the back, 3 in the front, which are Armageddon's own RGB synced fans. Unfortunately, my motherboard doesn't have an ARGB header on it that will fit with this fan controller, which was a bit disappointing, but you still do get a button on the top which will change the LEDs, and you get a nice variety of options. Also, holding that does turn them off completely if you're not into that, so that is always a nice feature. It also, of course, has a tempered glass side panel, because I was looking for something that could be a bit more showy, especially if I have it set up on a desk or something. I want to make sure that I do have that nice view, especially since everything else is covered in the bottom, so you really just get that nice graphics card lighting and everything else that you could possibly want for that. So it also has magnetic dust filters. There is one on the inside front, which you have to get to by removing the tempered glass side. There's also one on the very top, because it actually supports 2 fan intakes or outtakes at the top for, say, a rad, which is really good. I don't personally have a rad yet for anything, but it's nice to have that option for future investment. It also supports a 370mm graphics card, which, of course, the GTX 1070, I'll get it right the second time, we'll get there, really fits quite nicely in there, no problem at all. I could definitely even go longer with the one I've got, so that's always nice. It also supports everything from micro ATX all the way up to eATX, which is great, so no matter what board size, you can pretty much slot it in there. And that about rounds out all the major features for this case. There isn't anything too crazy going on, but there aren't a lot of English reviews of it, I've noticed. Most reviews don't fall in that category of English-speaking languages, or if there are, they don't really go over much. But for the most part, this case, not too hard to build in. Cable management was fairly decent in the back. You do have some nice mounting points, although I found that using the front inside part and the bottom part for the power supply, since I have a non-modular power supply in my case, was really nice and fit really easily. If I spent a lot more time, I could definitely cable manage better. I don't think I have that in the video, but it's not exactly perfect back there, but this is my first kind of foray into cable management itself like that, so it kind of works out in that regard. But for the most part, really enjoyed it. It's not a bad case, and I can definitely recommend it. Check it out. I'll leave the link in the description below for the Armageddon's website, where they list all the features of this case and have a small video for it. So if you guys are interested, definitely check that out. Until next time, guys, see ya.